dollar on the value chain. The majority of the share goes into processing, and that's why the keynote was focusing on that. 17 cents out of the dollar, that's what the farmers get in the US. Back in the day, in the 50s, the farmer was getting 50%. Why? Because the processing was taking place in home. So you buy your food, you don't go to the market, you go in the kitchen, you spend most of your time processing. I think most of it is happening in some country in Africa, where you buy raw materials, your product, and then you process it in your house. It's spending a lot of amount of time, which is not bad because processing food is for the market so they can bring money. But if you want to eat healthy, so you have to be able to control the food production, but also the food consumption, right? So, but most of the money is in the second part, the third part, which is processing. Now, going to the market. Because I'm talking about policy, at each level of the value chain, there are policies. Number one, in input. In the US, you can use so much fertilizer, but you cannot exceed what the state has recommended. I live in the state of Maryland, and the area where I am is poultry industry. And the poultry industry, there's a litter, there's a lot of phosphorus, and it goes where? It goes into the Chesapeake Bay. For those who've been in the eastern part of the US, we live on the bay. It's called Chesapeake Bay. And Chesapeake Bay produce what? Crabs, right? Crab meat. That's the delicacy in Maryland. Welcome to Maryland. So look for crab meat, right? But if farmers is sending pollution because of utilization of in-control fertilizer and chemicals, all of that goes into the bay. So those are regulations. We have to regulate the input, right? So that's the first part. Regulation goes also into the production method, right? So everything we do, for instance, we have carbon method. If you produce, you are in a pork business. So there's a method which is being emitted, that's emission, which will create what? Climate change. So all of that must be controlled, and that is the policy. And if you don't abide by that policy, then you get fined by the government. So that's where the policy framework came. You go to processing, there are also regulations of processing. Where I live, for instance, I used to work with small farmers, mostly from Jamaica, where they're doing raising goats. You cannot butcher a goat at the farm if you don't have inspected USDA facility. So you have to create an abattoir, but the USDA has to come and make sure that you follow the norms for delivering processed goats, right? Those are regulations as well. But like me, I like goats, right? So I go to the farm and I ask my Jamaican farmer, his name is Desmond. I said, Desmond, I'm going to the farm. He said, oh, come, Stefan, no problem. So if you are an individual, you butcher yourself, it's not going into commercialization, so you do fine. But if you are doing commercialization and you are selling meat, then you have to abide by the rules and the regulations of the state. And finally, the market outlet. Market outlet means domestic, Nigerian, or it's whatever you produce in Abuja, you sell in Abuja. If you are in Ibadan, so you produce, you sell in Ibadan. But then we have national market. So you produce here, but you sell it somewhere else, right? Like Lagos, for instance. Or you are Ibadan, then you sell it in Lagos, that's the national market. Then we have regional market. So regional market, looking at Cote d'Ivoire, looking at Burkina Faso, Ghana, Togo, Cameroon, right? So they have their own regulations. How do you trade? More so, if you are considering international market, and because of the regulations, you cannot penetrate any market without going to the rules and regulations. There are trade barriers, right? All of that enter into the policy for food security. If you are not able to bring food in your country because of those regulations, or if you are not able to export because you don't meet the regulations set by that country, then all of that will affect global food security. So, but again, that's the framework that when we look at all of these in globality, we look at the input, what are the rules, what are the regulations, what does the state allow and does not allow. You go on the production side, what are the production methods you're using, and how do you comply with that. And then you go to processing. Again, the processing has a lot of layers, and that's where the food safety comes. And that food safety is what? You know that food is safe when you eat it, you don't get sick, right? When you travel overseas, especially foreigners coming to the country where it's developed and everything goes through the control in the market scheme, you are not afraid of eating raw product. But guess what? When you travel, they tell us, don't eat raw product. You know why? Because if it's not cooked, it has germs. And if you are not used to the water, the condition of that country, you're going to be infected easily. Why? Because you are not used to that environment. It's not that you cannot eat it. If I live somewhere a long time, I become immune, so I can eat anything in that country. But if you're coming from another country, so anything that is raw, you try to stay away so that you don't get contaminated. All right. So, but again, growing up. Looks like the battery has some issues. So, okay, I'm going to go to my notes here. So I've covered most of the policy framework. What is the next step? So the next step is that we said we have come, the Center of Excellence for Global Food Security. There are other partners here in the country. There are partners outside of the countries. How we can come together to look on those issues related to global food security. How can we come to the point we are able to produce using efficient, effective input, better technology, even in processing? But what market are we targeting? Are we targeting ECOWAS? Are we targeting US market? Are we targeting European Union market? And we need to look at the requirement, how we can deal with those. Policy focus, I said capitalize on positive global food security outlook. I gave you from 2023, it was a bleak situation. Now there is a hope. Why? Because there is improvement in GDP per capita in most of the country. It's because we have better practices that we can adopt. It's because there is more income distribution. It's because there is inflation going down. So I skipped what the US has been doing in terms of food policies. Most recently, they passed the Inflation Reduction Act, where the US government passed along those benefits to the farmers. Why? Because they know healthy agriculture means healthy people, there is income for the farmers, there is food security in the country, there is better growth for kids. You know, even pregnant women in the US, they have a special program where it's tied. Believe it or not, it's not health department, it's agriculture department. WEEK program. So WEEK is the women with infant, children, where they get assistance from the government. So in our countries, we should be thinking much better. We have strong youth that will grow up to be strong and also lead us into the economic growth. We have to take into consideration determinants of food security and safety. What are those determinants? I said price, you have income, but also we have to make sure that the vulnerable are also getting assistance. Number 3, we have to prioritize agricultural policies that are beneficial to the food systems. So if policies are not good to increase the productivity and the productions, we need to review them so that we can favor, of course, without affecting the land or where we live in terms of environment. I'll give you an example of the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. And lastly, let's seize the moment. Thank you. My MC, no there? All right. Maybe you want me to continue, but I give up, so I want to give opportunity to other people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor. Let's appreciate him as he steps down now. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we will take another technical paper that will focus on food security challenges and the way forward in Nigeria. And this will be presented by Professor of Agricultural Science, a proven leadership person from PAOSMI Powered University, Professor Al-Hassan Danladi Isa. That's our professor who's stepping forward. Thank you very much. Professor, welcome.
My distinguished participants, permit me to stand on the already established protocol. My work is made easy by the previous speakers, particularly the keynote speaker. He has said all what I have in my slides, as well as the just concluded speaker. They have said it all. So I will not bother you with definitions of what food security is. They even mention what the challenges are. But I'm going to supply evidence-based data to show you how serious the issues are. But let me echo what the keynote speaker said in his presentation so that we look at it together and then think outside the box so that we can be food secure in this country. He said in part of his presentation that there is hunger in the land. I'm not sure we all agree with this. More so, what we need to do is we need to take action. He said we have had enough. We therefore need to walk the talk. We have had enough food for thought. So let's make it food for work. He also added that let's talk about those salient issues that are localized but very fundamental as far as food security is concerned in this country. Let's talk about those issues that are not making us produce. Let's rethink agriculture. Let's think out of the box. Let's look at the underutilized, nutritious Nigerian foods that will supplement what we have. For example, the kiwi he mentioned, the African star fruit, moringa, that is the miracle tree, grasshopper, of course you do not eat a lot of it, particularly women, sorry to say this. Yes, these are highly nutritious, but underutilized. Let us also diversify the rural economies, just move away or enhance their performance by diversifying their economy instead of just defining, let's have in addition to that, other vocations that they can take. Now, let us also utilize our irrigation. we so much depend on rain-fed agriculture, and we've neglected or we are underutilizing irrigation in this country. Time is running out. We must increase production by 70%, like you said, by 2030. Is it possible? Now, having said this, let me talk about food security in sub-Saharan Africa, because the immediate past presenter mentioned about global outlook of food security. I will not bother you with what they have said, definition of food security, the 4 pillars of food security. But let me read out the figures as far as food security situation is concerned in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, sub-Saharan Africa scores an average of 47 points on its overall food security environment in the 2022 Global Food Security Index, making it the least food secure region globally. Out of the 4 pillars of index, the region performs best in quality and safety pillars, and it is weakest and lowest in affordability pillar. Concerns surrounding this affordability are very important as far as the region is concerned, because it has a high percentage of the population under the global poverty line. Food safety net programs are lacking, although scores is high in quality and safety pillars are relatively high compared to those for other pillars. There is lack of relevant food safety legislation. There is also lack of access to drinking water in countries within the region that present food safety challenges. Now, suggesting food security in the region needs to be improved across all the 4 pillars. Now, the food security situation in Nigeria. The food security situation in Nigeria shows that Nigeria ranks 107 out of 113 countries, and 25th out of 28 sub-Saharan African countries, with an overall global food security index of 42. Nutritional standard and macronutrient availability contributing to a score of 555.6, which is the country's highest across the 4 pillars of the index in quality and safety category. Also, significant changes in food costs and lack of food safety net programs create affordability challenges for the population. Food safety net programs, not just like the palliatives being dished out by government, a program that should reach the grassroots is what is needed here. Not a program that only look at the politicians and not the masses. Now, high proportion of those under the poverty line, as reflected by the countries achieving the lowest score, that is 25 globally, in the affordability category. Now, in addition to enhancing affordability drivers, Nigeria also needs to invest in supply chain infrastructure, improve protein quality, increase commitments to food security and access policy, prioritize agricultural research and development. Now, these are also figures that will tell us the position of Nigeria as far as the 4 pillars of food security are concerned. Affordability. Nigeria ranks last, 113th in the index with a score of 25 points, highlighting major concerns surrounding affordability of food in the country. My country don't carry last.
But they don't carry last now.
All right. Availability.
They don't pack last.
Nigeria ranks 108 globally and 26 in sub-Saharan Africa. Quality and safety. Nigeria ranks 79 overall and 7th in the region in quality and safety category. Achieving its highest scores in nutritional standard and macronutrient availability. Sustainability and adaptation. In this category, Nigeria ranks joint 57th globally and 8th in the region with a score of 53.7 points. Nigeria has been able to maintain a low-level sea level rise and mitigating flooding risk, as well as implementing environmental economic accounting, committing to managing exposure and increasing climate finance flows, indicating action to further commit to adaptation. Now, all this has been said, talking about food security, the definition, talking about as it is in Nigeria, this was also mentioned, and then the challenges. So many of them. Is it low agricultural productivity? Is it poor infrastructure? Is it high transport cost? Is it lack of marketing strategy? Is it extreme weather events, high disease burden, weak financial assistance, political conflicts, and then the mother of all, poverty? Which one is not a challenge as far as the Nigerian situation is concerned? This has been well initiated by the previous speakers. Now, strategies for achieving food security in the country. This has been said also. That's why I said my work has been made easy by the previous presenters. Now, nutrition, sensitive agriculture. We need to promote the advanced climate smart farming systems. We need to improve on supply chains, reduce post-harvest losses, improve hygiene, link production and consumption, and then the present trend, which is one health approach, where you manage risks associated with animal, human, and environmental health. We need economic strategies that will look at employment, decent jobs in agriculture, especially in rural areas, non-farm economy that is to diversify, just moving away, or apart from agriculture, we need to increase other source of income for the rural farmers. Then support, provide funds for labor, storage facility, and subsidies on fertilizers. Social strategies that will include networking, encouraging social networking and farmer cooperation, education in order to improve access to education to farmers, infrastructure, develop basic amenities like roads, electricity, and potable water, which has also mentioned. Social strategies mentioned, environmental strategies, effluent management. We need to control industrial effluents that protect soil and water, fertilizer regulation, train farmers on the proper use of fertilizers and agrochemicals. Technological strategies that will involve crop rotation. We need to promote crop rotation and diversification. We need to look at irrigation, Implement irrigation system for higher productivity. Mechanization, we need to move away from the drudgery farming system and encourage mechanized farming to meet growing food demands. In conclusion, food security is a global phenomenon. Food insecurity is prevalent in both developed and developing countries, including Nigeria. Nigeria has agricultural potential, the land is fertile, and there is the human resources. We have oil extraction, shifting from agriculture to oil has impacted food security. When we had oil boom, we neglected agriculture. We had so many problems with that. Now we want to impact agriculture, and we are not doing enough. We need to invest in research and development. We need to adopt modern science and technologies in order to have a robust and then to have robust monitoring for effluents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. The presentations are moving on smoothly, and they seem to link to each other. Even the presentation of Professor Okpara earlier in the day is almost linking to what Professor Isa is saying here. We'll move on to our next paper, and this will be taking a look at good agricultural practices in curing international market. Technical people, please, I think the battery of this one changed, or another microphone, please. Please.